Too cheap or not too cheap? That is the question. So let's talk about the cost of independent video games. Okay, boo-boo. Now, a short while ago, an article came out that asked the question, should independent video game developers charge more for their games? Now, some developers believe they should charge more. Some believe they shouldn't charge more. Some even believe they should actually be charging less. Also, there was a discussion around No Man's Sky, which technically counts as the independent game, but is due to release at full price, £50 in the UK, $60 in the US. And perhaps a less-known story around Firewatch, where someone who bought the game felt it was a good game but wasn't sure if 2 to 3 hours was worth $18. Now, I've talked about some of these things in the past, but I wanted to make this video to elaborate a bit more, because I still think there's certain things that aren't being considered by many, if any, people when it comes to pricing video games. Now, as it is right now, a developer can and should be able to charge whatever it is they want for their games. They should be able to charge whether it's $10, $20, $50, $100. If they want to, they should charge $1,000, even $1 million if they think it is worth it. However, there are some things that one may wish to consider when setting their pricing. Now, perhaps the biggest thing to consider is, what is it worth to the consumer? Now, back when a person who bought Firewatch was considering returning it, he posted his reasons on the Firewatch forum, and that post was then responded to by one of the developers of Firewatch, who wanted to explain that the game took a while to make, that they went through illnesses, financial issues, breakups, one of them had a baby, and blah 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 blah, and that is why they feel they should be charging $18 for this game. Now, that's all well and good, and I'm not suggesting that it isn't true, but the bottom line is that as a consumer, you do not have to care about any of that, because you have bills to pay, you have kids to feed or people to take care of, you have responsibilities, and even if you don't, bottom line is that there's always something else you could be spending your money on other than video games. So when you buy a game, it needs to be worth it to you. Now, what's happened in the case of Firewatch, or at least what's happened in the case of Firewatch as I see it, is that they haven't priced the game based on the game itself and what the game delivers. Rather, they seem to have priced it on the fact that they've had all these trials and tribulations whilst making the game, and wanted that reflected in the price. Now, I get why you do that. We all got bills to pay, everyone wants to make a profit, etc, etc, etc. But when you are not considering what the consumer is getting, and the consumer gets a game and feels like, well, actually, I've paid more for this game than I feel comfortable with, they have absolutely every right to say, you know what, that's bullshit. Now, side note, the guy in this particular case actually ended up keeping the game, but still, you do not owe the developers anything. And now, another thing that I don't think many developers, if any developers, are considering is brand recognition. Now, what I mean by that is, there is a reason Beyonce can release an album with no advertising and it still be a success. There is a reason why Wu-Tang Clan can produce one copy of an album and sell it for $2 million, and there is a reason why my mate Barry spends months and months and months telling people about his upcoming gig that they can get in for free, and still hardly anybody turns up apart from the staff, because they have to be there. There is a reason for that. Now, what I tend to see quite a bit of these days is that you have these developers who are coming along and making their very first game and then charging more for that game than most other games. Now, again, a developer can charge whatever they want to for their games, but one of the things that I think of when I'm seeing games by companies that I've never heard of that cost more than other games is, why should I spend that extra money on this company that I've never heard of? There are companies out there who have consistently produced great games over a period of time, and they have built that trust. This new company is charging more for their games but have not built that trust, and on top of that, reviews by people that I do trust are saying things like, yeah, it's a good game but too expensive. And yes, there are the cases where you have some guy who used to work at some big company and he did really well there, leaves that company, starts his own small independent firm, and that can certainly help with brand recognition. But a lot of times it's just people who are fresh out of college, or they've been friends for a while, and they get together to make their very first independent project, put it out into the world and decide they want $30 for it, but they haven't built any kind of brand, they haven't built any kind of recognition, and most importantly, they haven't built any kind of trust with the consumer. So it's not surprising to read that a lot of these games come out and sit on some 15,000 people's wish list because maybe they sound cool or they look interesting or whatever, but you're not really thinking, I need this now, which leads to my next point, which is a lot of the time there just isn't any kind of urgency with these games. So that's the thing, as you guys know, Steam do refunds and they also do sales twice a year. So if I know that there is a sale coming in a few months, in fact it literally is because they've got a summer sales coming, but if I know that, what reason do I have to buy, say, a $30 independent game right now? What reason do I have to buy this game right now? A lot of the times, not very many. Not only that, if I do buy the game, and let's say I beat the game in less than 2 hours, what reasons do I have to keep the game? Again, usually not that many. Now the thing is, I don't believe that judging a game based on how long it takes you to beat the game is the most sagacious thing to do. But that being said, if it does take me less than 2 hours to play the game, I would need a reason to keep that game. And if I don't feel like the experience I had during that time playing it was, say, amazing, mind-blowing, or just something that makes me want to play the game again and again and again, or if I'm not getting something out of it that just says you need to keep this game, why should I? Now, I don't know if this was the intention of Steam, maybe it was, maybe it wasn't, but what things like Steam sales and Steam refunds have effectively done is put the power firmly into the hands of the consumer, because it means that developers can no longer get away with making shitty games. I know that when I buy a game from Steam, that game has up to 2 hours to impress me. If within 2 hours I am not impressed, whether it's because it's a crap game, whether it's because it's full of bugs, whether it just doesn't work, or whatever it is, if that game does not impress me within 2 hours, that game's getting returned. Furthermore, because I know the Steam sales are done at least twice a year, and as I said, there's one due soon, unless the developers can create an urgency, a reason for me to buy this game now, then I'm going to wait for the sales to get 10%, 20%, 30%, sometimes 50 or 70% off the game. I'm going to wait for that, buy the game then, and if it's a good game, I'll keep it then. They need to create a reason for me to buy this game right now, and not only that, I need to have a reason to keep the game. And with that said, I'm going to shout out Superhot Team, because they did make a game and charge more for it than an average independent game, but that game was absolutely brilliant. They gave you a reason why you wanted to buy this game now, and not only that, when you bought the game, there was a reason to keep the game. Even though you could easily get through the game in less than 2 hours, there was a reason to keep going back to it, and the reason was the experience. The experience was absolutely amazing. It was unique, it was fantastic, it was absolutely brilliant. So when you've done that, when you create that urgency, when you create a game that people want to keep, things like pricing become such a distant issue, because it's not about how much a game costs, it's about what does this game do for you, what does the game do for the consumer. And if you're not getting an experience that is worth keeping, then the developer just hasn't done their job. So things like Steam refunds, Steam sales, they help to send the message that developers need to make better experiences in their games, and I ain't gonna say it no more. So to wrap all this up, charge what you want for your games, but if you are going to charge a higher price, then you need to give us a good reason as to why you are charging a higher price. Furthermore, if you'd like us to buy your games right now, then you need to give us a good reason as to why we are buying your games right now. And also be prepared to build a brand. It's certainly not impossible for your first game to become a mega hit, but probably not going to happen in most cases. So be prepared to build a brand, build recognition, and build trust with the consumer. If you're not prepared to do that, then it's probably going to show. And before I end this, I know that I've concentrated on the independent market, but I would absolutely apply everything I just said to the AAA market as well, because I see you, Capcom, charging $60 for Street Fighter V Early Access Beta, already at dawn with the Order 1886, charging full price for literally 1/3 of a game. I see you. And that is what I think of the cost of independent games. What do you think? The price is right? Or come on down? Let me know down below. And if you like this video, give it a like and share it amongst your friends. If you did not like it, then give it a dislike and share it amongst your enemies. Either way, let me know your reasons in the comments. Subscribe if you have not already. Thank you for watching, and until whenever, if ever, I'll buy that for $1. It is an event. And what I mean by that is there are lots of good movies out there, lots of great movies out there, but when you go to the cinema, you really want something spectacular.